What if I told you that the secret to a total life transformation isn't some huge, dramatic change, but something tiny? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today with James Clear's incredible book, Atomic Habits. And believe it or not, this whole idea starts with one single, absolutely devastating moment.
I want you to just imagine this for a second. You wake up, someone asks you what year it is. You say 1998, no hesitation. But you're wrong. You're off by 4 years. Then they ask you who the president is. You say Bill Clinton. Nope, it's George W. Bush. This sounds like a nightmare, right? But this wasn't a dream. This was James Clear's actual reality, just moments after a life-altering injury.
So what happened? He was in the middle of a high school baseball game. A bat slipped from a teammate's hands, flew through the air, and hit him square between the eyes. The impact? It was just catastrophic. His brain started swelling fast. He lost consciousness, was rushed to the hospital, and doctors had no choice but to put him in a medically induced coma. This was, to put it mildly, the start of a very long, very uncertain journey back to life.
So let's talk about that day. That one split second, it changed literally everything for him. His recovery was just agonizingly slow, and when he finally got back to baseball, his greatest passion, well, it was anything but the triumphant comeback story he had probably been dreaming of.
Get this. A year after the accident, he's a junior, and he's the only junior cut from the varsity team. I mean, for a guy whose entire life revolved around that sport, this was just a crushing blow. He remembers just sitting in his car, totally devastated, feeling like his whole future, his potential, had been shattered right along with his face. But here's the thing. That absolute low point, it ended up being the foundation for his greatest discovery ever. So instead of trying to make some huge, heroic leap back to who he used to be, Clear decided to try something different. He just focused on one thing, getting 1% better every single day. And what he discovered was that these tiny, almost unnoticeable improvements, that was the real secret to getting remarkable results.
You know, he was really inspired by this story about a stonecutter. Think about it. A stonecutter hammers away at a rock 100 times and nothing happens. No crack, nothing. But then on the 101st blow, the rock splits in two. And Claire realized, hey, it wasn't that final hit that did it. It was the buildup, the cumulative effect of all those small, consistent taps that came before.
And when you look at the math behind this, it is absolutely staggering. If you get just 1% better at something every day for a year, you might think, okay, that's 365% better, right? Wrong. Because of the power of compounding, you actually end up nearly 37 times better. That is the incredible hidden power of these tiny daily habits.
And if you want a real-world example, just look at British cycling. For 100 years, they were pretty mediocre. But then, in 2003, a guy named Dave Brailsford came in and introduced this idea he called the aggregation of marginal gains. His team started improving every single tiny detail by just 1%. We're talking everything from the bike seats and tire grip to, get this, the paint color on the team truck to reduce weight. And the results? It was absolute, total domination of the sport.
Okay, so we know small habits are powerful, but how in the world do we actually build them? Well, Clear argues that the most effective way has nothing to do with willpower. Nope, it's about designing our environment. He says our surroundings are like this invisible hand that shapes our behavior way more than we realize.
There's actually a name for this. It's called choice architecture, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You're deliberately designing your world to make the good habits the most obvious and the easiest options available. Look, we all naturally gravitate towards the path of least resistance, right? So the real secret is to make the good habits become that path.
Okay, check out this experiment at Massachusetts General Hospital. Researchers wanted people to drink healthier. Now, they didn't put up posters or give any lectures. All they did was add bottles of water to every refrigerator that sold soda. And they put more water stations near the food. The result was instant. Soda sales plummeted, and water sales went through the roof. Why? Because they made the better choice the easier choice.
And it's the exact same principle here. In a suburb in the Netherlands, they found that homes with the electrical meter tucked away in the basement used a pretty normal amount of energy. But the homes where that same meter was right there in the main hallway, super obvious, easy to see every day, those homes used 30% less energy. Just making a cue visible made the behavior change almost automatic.
And all of this leads to what I think is maybe the deepest, most powerful insight in the entire book. The real purpose of building habits isn't just to hit a goal, like losing 10 pounds. The real goal is to fundamentally change who you are, your identity.
Just think about this comparison for a second. Someone who's trying to quit smoking. If you offer them a cigarette, they might say, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." See that? They still identify as a smoker who is trying to stop. But the person who has changed their identity, they just say, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." It's such a small shift in language, but it reflects a massive shift in belief. The behavior isn't a struggle anymore. It's just an extension of who they are.
And this is exactly how James Clear applied this to his own life. When he first started his blog, he didn't really think of himself as a writer, but he made a commitment. He would publish 2 articles a week, every single week, no matter what. And as he did that, the evidence started to pile up. Every article he published was like a vote for this new identity. He literally became a writer by consistently doing the things a writer does. So this all brings us to the most important question, doesn't it? We've seen how these tiny, atomic changes, a well-designed environment, and a focus on who you want to be can create some truly incredible results. So what does all this mean for you?
All right, so let's boil this all down. What are the big takeaways here? First, you got to remember that success is just the product of your daily habits. It's not about some once-in-a-lifetime transformation. Second, you have to be patient because the most powerful outcomes are almost always delayed. Third, be an architect. Design your environment to make good habits almost inevitable. And finally, and this is the big one, remember that every single action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this thought. Your potential, it's not some fixed thing that you're just born with. It's something you build day by day. James Clear built his future not with one giant heroic effort, but by laying one small brick as perfectly as he could over and over again. So the real question for you is, what masterpiece are you building?